even people in the family members, you had family members going to prison.
Yeah, at one time we had a grandmother, a mother, and their daughter. And so that was normal. And
somebody had to break that cycle.
Exactly. And so you tried to give them the tools to be able to do so. And so we had a lot more classes for them to take. There was a lot more. I taught a drug and alcohol class, and then we had a PTSD class because we had veterans there who had severe PTSD that unfortunately, because of it, they would violate the law, and so that put them in prison. And if you were bipolar, for example, and your meds cost you $300 a month, and you didn't have $300 a month, so you quit taking your meds, which then would oftentimes lead you to commit a crime.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Journeys of Life podcast. I am here today with Dr. Tami Romriell. Did I say that right?
Romriell.
Romriell. Perfect. Well, you guys are in for a treat today. This woman is absolutely amazing. So inspirational. I was like, listen, I have to have you on. So, for those of us who do not know you, please introduce yourself. Who is Tami? Who is Dr. Tami?
Oh, I'm a busy lady.
I can't hear. Oh my God, audio's off. Okay, now it's good. Now it's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, let me start
So,
again. For
okay.
those of us who don't know you, please introduce yourself, Dr. Tami.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here. I am the mother of 5. I've been married to my best friend for 45 years. And there were those crazy kids that got married right out of high school, basically. And so we've had to grow up together. As far as my journey, I have worked in a lot of different industries. The latest, I retired from the Department of Correction here in Idaho. I was the administrative assistant to the warden. I worked for the Idaho Department of Correction for 27 years. And then after I retired, I decided that, before I retired, when my youngest son was 13, I decided to go back to college. And so I got my bachelor's degree. And then 2 months after I got my bachelor's, I started my master's program. And then, not exactly what I wanted to do, but I am Christian, and I was doing the dishes, and for some reason, God likes to talk to me while I'm doing the dishes and cleaning the kitchen. And I heard his voice, and he said, "I need you to get your PhD." And I wanted to throw up, quite honestly. I felt very sick because I was 53.
Wow.
And I thought, why in the world do I need to get a PhD? I'm 53 years old. And so I argued quite a bit, and cried and tried to negotiate, which is always hilarious when you want to negotiate with God. And finally, he just said, "Tami, is it ever a good career choice to argue with the Lord?"
Mm.
So with that, I went and got my PhD. It took me 7 years. It was the hardest thing I ever did. So I graduated with my PhD when I was 60.
Wow, wow, wow. Oh my God. So much to unpack. That is just okay, I'll let you continue.
Uh, so then, really not knowing why I needed to get my PhD, I just have been going in faith, and that He has a plan, and it'll all work out. So I decided I was eligible to retire last year, and so I retired in February. And then I began looking for what my next journey would be, what I wanted to do. And I started reading about real estate, and I found that to be interesting. But I knew that I knew nothing about real estate, and so I started looking for a community or somebody to mentor. I knew that that was important, but I also knew that I had joined a group called mastermind.com that is an online learning platform. And during my PhD journey, there were many times and talking to my mentor that she would tell me something and I would say, "Well, Dr. Mack, why didn't you tell me that, like years ago when I started this journey?" And I had discussed with her that um, it sure would be nice if schools would offer a pre PhD course to prepare you for your PhD. And she said, that's a great idea. We really should. And so I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. So I created a course for moms who are pursuing their PhD. And that took me 8 months to do it. And now I just need to record it and put it on the platform to monetize it. So, going through Mastermind, I looked at the different programs, mentorships in there, and that's when I was introduced to Pace Morby. And he had like a mini course about building community. And I loved what he talked about. And so then I started doing more research on him and his community. And he has basically three different mentorships. He has um, one that's for Gator, one that it's sub two, and the other one is TC. It's for transactional coordinators. I was going to join sub two, but unfortunately, in April of last year, um, our son died. So, um,
Sorry for your loss. That's tough.
and he didn't have any life insurance. And so it depleted a lot of the money that I was going to use for the mentorship. But I had enough to join the smaller one called Gator. And it has been a whirlwind ever since I joined, a lot of learning, but I love the community. I love getting to know people like you, Fatu. It's been fun. And so with that, I just been learning and networking and was able to close my first deal in January of this year. And I'll close another one probably on March 25th or 26th. And so I just keep on learning and growing and trying to help others. And I'll be going to they have a big convention in April, and my husband and I will be attending that Squad Up Summit, where I hope to do more um, networking and trying to get my business to really take off.
Amazing. Well, I have so much to unpack. Like so much to unpack. First, I want to say I am very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
As a mom, I cannot imagine lose like how hard it must have been for you. So all my sincere condolences go to you and your husband and your family.
Thank you.
And with that, can we just touch on how important it is having life insurance? And like if you can just elaborate now, because I think that's something very a lot of people, a lot of us don't think about it, but it's like we have to think about those we're going to leave behind, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
yeah.
I think that everybody probably gets in the mail the advertisements for putting life insurance on your children, and it just wasn't anything that I ever would think about. It just
Hmm.
wasn't. And yeah, and since the death of our son, I have been telling a lot of people how important that is.
Yeah. Wow.
You don't want to think about your child dying before you. I
Yeah.
think that
That's a hard pill to swallow for sure.
it is. It
Yeah.
is.
Wow. Okay. So just wanted to touch on that because that, when you said it wiped out most of your savings and whatnot, I had a childhood friend recently lose their little brother, and she was telling me the funeral, everything cost around $60,000. I was shocked because it's not
Hmm.
something is that's discussed every day.
It
Like this
is
is
not.
how much it costs, and I was like, is it that expensive? Wow. But um, to go back, you are such an inspiration to me because at 53 years old, you went back for your doctorate. Like, and it took
Right.
you 7 years, but you didn't give up. And it's just like, wow, Dr. Tammy, like I have to put the doctor there because you deserved it. And you going back, what has been the impact on your family? Like, your other children and your grandchildren.
Well, it's interesting how, each of your children will have a different
Come closer.
feeling
We're
about.
losing you a little bit.
Oh, it's interesting. It's interesting how each of your kids will feel about it. Uh, Two of my children went back to school because they saw their mom going to school. Um, they thought probably that I was a little bit crazy to pursue my PhD, and it really engulfed my life. I didn't feel like I had time for friends. Uh, I Every time my husband wanted to go out, to have dinner with somebody or just to be with friends, it would make my gut clench because I worked full time and Anne was doing my PhD, and a PhD is very all encompassing. And I feel bad about that because I did lose friendships because, but and I'm rebuilding those,
Oh
but
wow.
it was all encompassing, and I didn't. One of the things I noticed within 3 years, I mean, because I had a job that predominantly was sitting. I would sit down and do a lot of paperwork. There was a lot of processes, hiring, and those kinds of things. And so I sat a lot, and then I would come home and sit a lot.
Oh my God.
And so in 3 years' time, I had gained 15 pounds. And I thought, "Well, I'm not gonna continue that," you know? So, once again, I decided, that if I could even just go to the gym for 30 minutes, that would be 30 minutes. And, but I knew if I went to the gym that I'd have no idea what I was doing at all. And as soon as something hurt, I would probably stop, you know? And so again, I started investigating and found a program called My Peak Challenge that I get a crib sheet every day. They have a they have a menu plan. They have the videos to show you how to do the exercises right. And so um, I found that your brain continues to process even when you are doing something else. And so I would be, running on the treadmill or on the bike or weightlifting, and my brain would still be thinking about what I was going to do when I got home. And I found that I would get these epiphanies and I was rejuvenated. So not only did I lose the weight and get muscle mass, but it helped me mentally.
Congratulations. Wow.
So I just recommend that for everybody. You need to take that time out. And I always felt guilty that I don't have time. Well, I found out that I did have I couldn't afford not to have that time,
Wow.
you know,
Couldn't
meant
afford to have that time. I love that because a lot of a lot of time what happens is I think it's all about priority, right?
correct.
If it was for somebody else, one of your kids, you will find the time. You will
Mhm.
have the time. Your schedule will be clear. So I love that you prioritize your health. And I just love the story. So many things to ask you. Can you talk about your experience working in a prison for 27 years? Wow.
Um, it was interesting to see the change in that time. Um, and when I mean the change, I mean how people felt about corrections in Idaho. Idaho typically is a lock 'em up state.
Oh, okay.
Um, Not very much in treatment. And through my years of working, I worked first with probation and parole, and then moved up to the prison. And it used to be very black and white. You know, you did this wrong, you're going to be in prison. And then there started to be more change, more pro-social, more of instead of always catching you being bad, it was catch them being good,
Okay.
and recognizing um, that the best way to help people was to make them better people for when they get out, they're going to become your neighbors. And
Absolutely.
and you want, I mean, I know that I've done a good job when I worked at the women's prison, and so it's fun for me when I see them out in the community. And they have to call you by your last name, and so when they go, "Miss Romriell, how are you?" And for them to come up and tell me what their successes are. And I just learned that I couldn't judge them. It wasn't my job to judge them. My job was to help them to become better people. And so if they know that they love and care, that the people love and care about them, that it changes their outlook, because sometimes that's the first time they've ever heard that somebody cares about them.
That's
So,
that's kind of sad that, they don't get that.
yeah,
That's a little sad.
it's very sad because a lot of time we had access to the history of how they grew up. And so
Oh,
many times
okay.
I thought, well, no wonder you're here. You didn't have a
Hmm.
chance, you didn't have a chance from birth, um, which is
Oh,
really
wow.
sad. And and so to them, going to prison was normal. And, you
Wow.
know, and we
Because
had,
that's all they saw growing up.
mhm.
People in the family members, you had family members going to prison.
Yeah, at one time we had a grandmother, a mother, and their daughter.
Whoa.
And so that was normal.
Well,
And
somebody had to break that cycle.
exactly. And so you tried to give them the tools to be able to do so. And so we had a lot more classes for them to take. There was a lot more. I taught a drug and alcohol class, and then we had a PTSD class because we had veterans there
Okay.
who had severe PTSD that unfortunately, because of it, they would violate the law.
Okay.
And so that put them in prison. And then we had, unfortunately, our governor decided to cut the budget on mental health, which I don't know where he thought that was going, but that meant if you were bipolar, for example, and your meds cost you $300 a month, and you didn't have $300 a month, so you quit taking your meds, which then would oftentimes lead you to commit a crime. And there's no long term mental health facility. The only place they would put them is in prison.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay.
So when I started, we had 0 clinicians, we had none,
Mm.
and when I left there, we had 4.
Okay, that was an improvement for sure.
Yeah, well, because we have an entire tier filled with mental health, inmates.
Wow. So we do definitely need more mental health. Um,
Absolutely.
because sounds like a lot of people are being put in prison when they just need a little mental health help.
Yes, and it was so frustrating. And plus we need more treatment centers.
Mm.
When 83% of the women up there are there for drugs and alcohol. Um, but the reason that they became a drug addict or an alcoholic, most of them have been sexually abused.
Oh my.
Well, that's a societal problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, if we could create more long-term treatment centers, then we would reduce the population of those that are actually in prison and give them the real help that they need.
Okay, I agree. I mean, it's kind of sad that a lot of people that they feel like maybe society kind of shunned them a little bit, like we didn't do enough to protect them as kids, and they end up in the system, which is kind of very sad to hear. But wow, what an experience that was.
It really was because I learned a lot. I grew with a lot of compassion, to understand where these women came from, and realizing because, like you said, um, when they were sexually abused, they had nobody to be their advocate,
Mm.
and so to numb the pain of it, they went to
Mm-hmm.
drugs and alcohol. And then here you put them in prison and you take away their drugs and alcohol, and now they have no coping skills.
Mm.
And you have to understand also, whatever age they started using drugs, that's where their emotions stopped.
Well,
And so we would have women that would easily be my age who would act like they were 13
wow,
emotionally.
because that's when they started using.
Hmm.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and so that was really eye opening to me, very eye opening that they just, yeah, we had to treat, in many cases, it was like working at a junior high,
Why? Because a lot of these women started using very young
very young.
because of the trauma that they have been through, which
Hmm.
is wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very tragic. Our society has a lot of issues, and and sexual abuse is huge.
Wow. So how did you how was your mental health while dealing because this stuff is not easy, right?
It is not. Um, what happens is that you have no filter, because we talk about everything, and we have to talk about it in order to process it.
Mm.
Because unfortunately, we had women that would commit suicide while they are in prison,
Oh my.
and that was hard on everybody,
Mhm.
and so we would have what we call, it's like the military where we have like a defrag where we would get everybody together and talk about things and how it went and how we could have been better, and that was very much a part of it. And we had counselors, specifically for staff, to talk about what was going on there. But really, it was a lot of talking, and working through, and not very PC, not
Mm.
um, because it was our way of dealing with the trauma that we were going through as well.
Mhm.
And so we always would joke that if we had to write a book about it, people wouldn't believe it. Some of the things that would go on there.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I think my faith probably had a lot to do with it.
To help you
Is
cope with that because that's I can't imagine it. So it's just like And you know how it's hard to kind of separate work and personal and family life, because if you work in that environment day in and day out, it's going to get to you if you're you know, as just a regular person, you're going to feel it. So wow. How was your husband throughout this whole time? Like, you know, and you have to give us some marriage tips too, because being married for 40 years, like, you know, how was your husband supportive while you were working in this women prison for 27 years?
Oh, he's always been very supportive. We have a great relationship because we have for one thing, we were best friends first, and then we got married, you know? And yeah, there's been struggles as any marriage is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
but we advocate for each other. We are our biggest cheerleaders.
Hey.
And so when I needed to vent, I could and talk about things. The only thing that is funny about men is that when you are venting, they think that it's their job to fix it, you know?
Oh.
And I'd have to stop him and go, "Sweetheart, love you, love the support. I know how to fix this. I just need to vent."
You just
You
need to
know,
let it out.
I need to just let it out. And the look on his face was always like, "What?" You know? And he would offer me suggestions, which I appreciate, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Um, but yeah, always has been so supportive, and I just love that about him. And here I'm
Oh my
taking this
goodness.
different take, you know, being in real estate, and he
Yes.
actually was a mortgage refinancer, but when the interest rates went crazy,
Mm-hmm.
then he wasn't making any money on that, so he's had to switch gears too. And so we just want each other to be happy. We enjoy being together. We enjoy learning from each other, and so it's really good. It's really
That
good.
is so sweet. Oh my God. So the secret is to just, you know, support each other and be best friends. No
Yeah,
matter. Yeah.
yeah. Well, sometimes I'll say, I don't really like you right now, but
Yeah.
but I'll always love you,
Wow.
you know.
I love that. So now to wrap things up, how do you like you're amazing because you were telling me about multi-million dollar real estate deals right now. So how has your mindset shifted, you know, from you were dealing with this type, you were in an environment that was not talking about, you know, multi-million dollars. It wasn't a normal conversation. You had to deal with women that were sexually abused and, you know, drugs and all that stuff, to going to a totally different environment where it's just normal to talk about deals that are multi-million dollars. Like how are you dealing with that? How are you navigating?
Well, I don't know how I'm dealing with it because I just feel like I've been drinking out of a fire hose.
Plus, we're losing you a little bit.
Oh, I just feel like I've been drinking out of a fire hose. And but if you're not learning, you're not growing.
Mhm.
And I love learning. I love it. And I could be, you know, I when I was in my master's program, I thought of other masters that I thought about getting,
Mhm.
but I'm telling you, after getting a PhD, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine going back to school to get anything. Oh, that was so much. But that
But
doesn't
you did
mean
it.
but you don't have to go to school in order to learn.
You really don't.
No.
Yes.
And so there's so many other ways to learn.
Mhm.
And I read a lot, and um, I listen to a lot of podcasts I that are very motivational and help process mental health things. I really like Jay Shetty. I don't know if you
Mhm.
know who he is, but
Yeah.
he lived he lived as a monk for a while, and I just think
Yeah.
that's fascinating. And
Yeah.
he's very motivational, has some really good things. And oftentimes when I'm at the gym, I'll just plug him in and listen to things and Mel Robbins, and I try to surround myself with people that are positive because they can drain you. You
Yeah,
can you and even when they're in your own family, you can love them,
right.
but you have to like Trent Shelton, he's like, protect your peace.
Absolutely. You have to because like being around the right people is so important because some people will
Yeah.
suck the energy out of you. So you
Yeah.
always have to surround yourself with people that are always looking to grow, and it's so important. But man, we have no excuse. Like young people, you have no excuse not to pursue anything. Look at her. She goes to the gym. She has her doctorate. She's doing real estate deals and all, after 60 years of age. God bless you. Like thank you so much for coming. If you can give one advice to the young people again, what would it be?
Well, I wish I had started earlier. I just
Yeah.
do. I think, unfortunately, our school system raises people to be workers, to have a W-2, work from 9 to 5. That typical model. And don't get me wrong, we need workers. We absolutely do. But it was my son that we lost who said, "Mom, I just don't think God put us on this earth to work from 9 to 5. I just don't. I think there's more to it." And
Mm,
when he said that, my husband and I were working hard to support 5 children, and we took that as he was being critical of our life choices. But it wasn't until we started switching and doing more entrepreneurial things that I realized what he was talking about.
mm,
And when we did that, we were able to click so much better because I was like, "You're right. Not everybody can be entrepreneurial." And like I said, we need people that love doing the 9 to 5. I am not critical of that, but I am saying that just going to school and going to college and getting a job may be not for you.
yeah, it's
And
definitely
that's
not for everybody.
okay. And you need to, if you're going to invest in, always amazing to me that people will invest in college, but they won't invest in themselves.
Oh my God, say this, preach.
And so yes, it costs money. When I joined Mastermind, it cost me money. When I joined Pace's group, it cost me money. But I'm paying for speed
Yep.
because why would I take years to learn real estate all by myself? Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I pay somebody that's already been there, done that, got the
Yep.
t-shirt,
Yep.
so I could get all of that information? Now it's overwhelming at times, but I'm paying for speed, I'm paying for their knowledge. And so as somebody young, really evaluate, is this the path that I want to follow? Am I going to college because I was told that's what I needed to do? Or is it something, there's going to be certain things. If you want to become a doctor, of course you need to go to college. If you want to become a lawyer, of course you need to go to college. But there are other ways and other avenues that might fill your soul,
Hmm.
that you may want to look at other ways of learning and doing different things that don't require a college degree. It just might not
Wow.
be for you.
Love it. Love that advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was eye-opening and so inspirational. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we're gonna have you on again to talk about all the multi-million dollar deals you closed. We got to talk about all the real estate deals you're closing. Age is just a number. You don't have an excuse to not perform or go back to school or pursue your dreams, right? Or change who you want to be. It's never
Exactly.
too late. It's never too late. Thank you so much, Dr. Tammy. This was wonderful.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
I'll see you on the next episode. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to end the recording here.